Welcome everybody to another episode of the I Got It Girl podcast. I got to tell you that I'm beyond excited for this one. And the reason why is because the woman you're going to meet today is the one who encouraged me to just do it. I was on a workshop that her and two other friends of mine that were putting on. I had been on her podcast and she's like, you got, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't want to do that. And as you guys have heard, I never wanted to do a podcast on my own. I was just a really good podcast guest, right? And after sitting and talking with them, and especially Laurie, it clicked in my brain that a podcast is my way to help shine the light on my story as well as all these other amazing women that I've met, and to get the message out there that you no longer have to do this thing alone, and that you are no longer have to be the I got it girl with everything on your shoulders. And so today, let me hand it over to Laurie to introduce a little bit about herself and how she is the one who inspired me to do this. Thank you so much, Laurie, for that inspiration and for being here today.
Thank you for that generous introduction. And Jackie, what drew me to you is that you're a coach. And something about coaching is so wonderful because it gives us a platform to be good listeners, but to also call people out in a very loving, kind way. And when I've seen what you do, I just knew that you had to have a podcast because it is about the story. And what story stood out when you were on my podcast was the I got it girl. It's like I've got this, and I see so many entrepreneurs running themselves ragged because they've got it. And when we've got it, we don't leave room for anybody else to get it. to,
No. Oh my
to
gosh.
be
Spot
able
on.
to step into the story. We don't clear a pathway for the next person. And then naturally, and I don't mean up, but naturally we evolve and we go on and we create space for the next person coming up. And so my got it girl was I was a single mom, and I didn't have family nearby. I didn't have support or help. I had to do it all. And there wasn't really an option. And I was a coach, but I would go, it was before internet, really. It was just like websites. So I would go sign up with coaches to get their free one so that I could get free coaching. But this is what I discovered, Jackie. Many of the coaches, they didn't really listen. Like when you called them, they had a program they wanted to get you in, but they didn't really listen to what the need was. Like, what is she saying she needs? And maybe she's not even ready yet. So that was kind of my got it girl, is like, I don't even have anyone to turn to. And had there been podcasting when I was a single mom, oh my goodness. Because when I was a single mom, I got back into radio and I had to make a CD. I had to buy a very, very expensive microphone. We don't have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to mail the CDs to the radio stations. And the thing is I wanted to write a book, but I also wanted to get coaching clients. And they said, get on the air, go get interviewed. So I finally go get interviewed as a coach. And because I was a coach and a good listener, the interviewer would end up telling me their story, which was wonderful, but it wasn't promoting my coaching so much. And so what I really realized is as I stepped into being an entrepreneur, that I had to let go of certain things. And I couldn't, like, as coaches, we know we can't fix, right? But there's that innate feeling of we want to help and fix. And so, do you ever talk about the Enneagram?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what number are you?
I was a tie between a 2 and a 7, the helper and the enthusiast.
See,
Yes, I do.
I thought I heard you say that. Okay, so I got this book I really wanted to listen to, and I was driving to work, and it was about the Enneagram. I didn't know that, but it was a story that I wanted to hear, and it went right into Enneagrams, and it fell out of my holder, so I couldn't reach it, and I had a 40-minute drive, and it started with two. It
Yep.
started with two, and I'm like, I am not listening to this, and we're so helpful. We want to help people. And then the caution was stop helping people. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I do that? How do I even do that? Because I want to be available and I want to be that kind of friend. And so I
Mhm.
had to really learn how to step back. In coaching, we have this thing called hold people big. Like,
Mm,
know that they can do the thing rather than I'll
mhm,
do it
mhm.
for you. And like, so I work with older women and it's in technology, it's helping them do their podcast. And so now I don't jump in and do it all for them. I was like, you got this. We can walk through it together. You can figure it out. But I had to let go of that. You know,
Mhm.
someone says, well, I just can't. It's like, no, I'm going to hold you big and believe in you because you can do this. And you know this when you started your podcast. It was scary, it was hard. And now it's kind of like your fun day, right?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I already got so many nuggets in the first, what, 5 minutes of this. So I want to touch on a couple things you said. One, yes, the Enneagram helper cracks me up because when I first read it, if you're familiar with the Enneagram and you're listening to this, they talk about the negative side of the Enneagram number that you are and what's the healthy version of the Enneagram, right? And when I first read two, I was like, that's right, I'm the helper. Yes, I am. But the not so healthy version has this they do it to fulfill something inside of themselves that is a hole or an emptiness. And then there's an expectation that, like, the person on the other side, like, if I fix you and help you, you better love me. You better da da da. And that I can see that so crystal clearly in my relationships with men and relationships with friends. I'd be like, I just would do, plan, 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 and then have this resentment or this like anger behind it or this like what the heck, why aren't they thinking of me, and like why aren't they, like, I would bring all these, before networking was famous, I would bring all these women together and we'd go to dinner, like from all my different backgrounds of my world, because in the restaurant industry you meet so many people, and I'd have 10 to 15 women at this table and we would just be talking about life. Afterwards I'd see posts and stuff on social media that they're hanging out together but not calling me, and so this two in me was like, what? Right? The healthy version of the two now is the one who does and understands, like they give and understands they will receive somewhere else, like energy flows. And there's not like a expectation of like, I'm doing this because I truly want to, not with an ulterior motive, not to fill any holes within my body. It is just because I genuinely want to help. And so I learned when I first read that, it cracked me up. And so thank you for bringing that up. Another thing that you mentioned that I want to touch on for you. Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to this woman's got so much experience, like so much experience. So if you are looking to be in any of this world of where you are storytelling and getting out there, like you need to connect with Laurie, and we'll cover that at the end of what she's doing. But it's like she had to send CDs in, guys. You heard her. Like she had to like she's got years of experience that together, like the wisdom that she has, like you can't get that in a school or a program or a book. Like you can only get it from someone like Laurie. So I just want to touch on that. And then you mentioned when it came to the I got a girl and being the single mom and not having anybody, like we are really forced into this mode of survival at some point in our life. Mine started at 7 when mom passed, and my dad had to take care of 6 kids in a construction company, and then was trying to build a relationship with someone else 2 years after my mom passed. And I was just, there was no time for me, and I didn't want to be a burden. And so I figured out how to survive, right? How to make food if I was hungry, how to make clean clothes, and you've probably heard this on a previous episode, but I really, really learned that survival from a place of control. If I can control this and I can get this taken care of, so I can imagine as a single mom, like I need to be in control. And something that you said, like we miss out on so much when we're in this mode of living. But we created amazing lives. You raised great kids. You created like a good life during that time frame, I'm assuming, right? And yeah, we've had our challenges during that, but overall, like from the outside looking in, it's not a bad life from survival and control. And it's pretty much fed by fear, like fear of loss, fear of like not making it. And what's missing. Here's what I discovered what's missing. And I want to hear what your point of view on this is. What was missing was I would never let myself truly love another fully because I was afraid. And I had to protect myself and be in control. I wouldn't let anybody be involved in my finances. Forget that. Like I was like, I got it. I don't need anybody's help with this. And when I got into this current relationship that I'm in, 10 years in, we did so much growing together and so much. Oof, I can't even tell you, we've grown so much. And it wasn't until year 7 that I allowed myself to let go of that control, fear, and survival, and allow my husband to fully love me and allow myself to fully love him. Like 7 years in, and then I wasn't able to fully allow like friendships. Like I've have some like diehard friendships from college and high school, but the ones that I met from when I started this business and did my healing are the ones that'll be there like deeper than I've ever had before. And the kind of connections that I make now, but I wasn't allowing that. I kept everything surface level. So tell me what comes from you, what comes up for you when you hear that place of like, what were you not allowing yourself to have because we're in so much control of what we think we have over life?
The one thing that I realized was I couldn't control it all. Here I am, a single mom with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always heard the saying, choose your battles. And so as a coach, I embraced that. And one of the things was, I don't know why it was socks, but 3 kids and me, we had a ton of socks. And I didn't have time to sort and fold and put away socks. And my kids weren't going to do it. They did their laundry, but they weren't going to do it. So we had a sock basket. And it was like, that was for me letting go. If someone came in my house and they saw my sock basket, or if the kids said, oh, it's in the sock basket, I wasn't, if I got judged, I wasn't going to let that bother me because there's only so much as a single mom I could do because I had to do everything. Where we live, we didn't have garbage pickup. So I had to take the garbage to the dump. I had to do all the things. So I really had to sit and look at what I was tolerating
Mm-hmm.
and what I was willing to let go of. And not only let go of, but be okay with if people, friends saw. So if my
Mm-hmm.
house wasn't immaculate, which it rarely was, I had to learn how to be okay with that and still like not live in the shame of, I can't do it all because we can, but we'll kill ourselves doing it. And I
So,
didn't want to do that. Yeah.
so I love that you brought up that it doesn't have to be big. It starts small. It starts with socks. Like, right? And it starts with dishes in the sink. It starts with like letting go. And this is what rung came to me like when as soon as you said it was expectations,
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations. Is something as women that we carry heavy on our shoulders. These expectations of being perfect in like perfect household, perfect this, perfect that. The expectation of being able to handle it all on our own, or we're going to look weak, or we're not going to be strong, and all that other stuff. And so it starts with socks. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, so
Yeah.
good. So what? So after like that, what were some things that you felt like you started to truly let go over the years? Some people say let go, let God. Some people say let go and live. And whatever your scenario is, what were some things that came up that you were like here, here, and here? Because I know people are out there not realizing that they can
Yeah.
let the dishes sit in the sink or let the socks be in a basket, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because it pulls up shame. One of the things that I really struggled was the empty nest. And I knew
Mm,
that I could get back into radio when my kids were almost graduated. And so I was doing what I could behind the scenes. But even when they graduated and I was working in radio, there was this sadness and people are like, "Oh, empty nest, you can't make them cookies and go to school." And I thought, it's so much more than that. And I wish that people understood it because now I had my career. That's what I always said. Work on what you love so that when the time comes, you can fully jump in. And I knew I
mm,
wanted to get back into radio. And so I did. So wouldn't I be happy? Yes. But there was still just that I moved because my kids, I raised them on an island. And so my
I
job
love that.
in radio was off that island. So I moved over to, we call it the mainland. And so I was not in my community anymore either. I was in
Mhm.
a whole new community and working full time. So not really making friends, not really like networking and stuff. We network when we're entrepreneurs, but sometimes when we're working full time, you're just with the people you work with. So
Right.
that was my big shift. And this crazy thing happened. I had this wooden sign that said believe. Have you seen those? They say family,
Hmm.
they say
Hmm.
believe. And when I moved in with my sister until I found a place. And so at the end of my bed was this big dresser, and I had it on there, believe. And whatever I was struggling with, this, yay, I'm back in radio, but boo, I've lost my community and my kids are so darn independent. They don't need me. Yay, boo, all those feelings. is I looked up at that sign and all I could see was lie. And I kept
Mm,
thinking, was it a lie when you can live your dreams, you can do what you want, and I was just feeling this big void. And it was during that time a friend of mine said, and I thought she was matching me up. She goes, "You've got to meet this guy. He's amazing." And so I went to the coffee shop to meet him. Well, he was an author and he taught people how to write books. And I made this connection with him and paid him, and he helped me write my book. And within 2 weeks, I had my book. And all of a sudden, when I finished that book and was ready to hand it over to the editor, when I went to bed that night, I looked at that sign and I saw be live. Believe. I saw believe again. It was like in that moment of the lie, I'd kind of lost some hope, but it wasn't because I'd lost hope. It was the shift. And I
mhm,
remember you telling me your story when you started coaching, and you're like, yay. And you're like, this sucks. Like when we shift, it doesn't mean it's easy. Often it
mhm,
means it's really hard. There's a lot of letting go and then accepting and all those things. And that's hard. But then, and
mhm,
so that was my big revelation when I looked up and saw believe again, and I went, oh, it's gonna be all right. It's not a lie.
mhm. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you guys heard we'll put a link for the book and all her stuff at the end because she wrote a book, so you're definitely gonna want that. I love that you saw like I love that you um were vulnerable enough to attach to the fact that you saw like lie and you felt like you're in this lie. I call that a lot of people have the gap in the gain. So there's this gap in between like where we are and where we want to go. And it's in that gap, like how many lies do we tell ourselves? And I do lots of exercises on this with my clients about like, okay, you feel held back from this. What are you telling yourself? 99% of those defeating thoughts or lies are just stories that we're telling ourselves that are not true. So I do this truth and lies like kind of game we play. So what's the lie? Let's rewrite the lie to the truth. What is really true? We say, oh, well, no one's going to listen to my podcast. There's one of mine before I did it. Like, who would want to listen to my podcast? Why? How would my podcast be like? Da, da, da. And it's like, who's to say that people won't want to listen to the podcast? So it's like, how many people will want to listen to the podcast, and how many people, a lot more lives could you change getting the podcast out? And so switching that into what could be true, what is possible. So I love that you pointed that out because yes, there are going to be challenges in every choice you make and every transformation, every shift. That's a whole nother episode of all the stuff in the beginning. When I started coaching, I was like, why am I crying for 9 months and not making any money? That was that part where you said, when you said, Jackie, I remember you saying it sucked. And I'm like, it did until like I realized why I needed that. And we don't know exactly what we need. And that's why we have mentors and coaches and people to help us through the things because we can't read the label on our own jar. We get stuck in this jar and we're
Mhm.
like, I don't understand why I can't do-" and then someone else can reflect back your greatness because they can read the ingredients on your jar better sometimes. The
That's
right
so
people. Let
beautiful.
me rephrase that. The right people.
Ye- Good point. Good point.
So you had mentioned earlier that now you're in of service of people helping them get their podcasts up and running. I love that you said you don't do it for them, which
Mm-mm.
is fabulous because what's that old saying of like teach them how to fish, don't give them the fish. And
Mhm.
I don't say other people's stuff very well sometimes,
Yeah.
but because when you're, I always say to people, when I'm gone, what would you do? Like, what would you do if I wasn't here?
Yeah.
Because they'll come to me for, but can you just tell me what to do here? Tell me, if I wasn't here, what would you do? Like, if I was gone tomorrow, what would you do? You'd have to answer these on your, so helping people empower them to make their own decisions and to do the thing. I love that. So tell me how you went from radio into podcasting and like all that jazz.
Well, I worked in radio before I had kids. And then I had kids and, became a single mom. I worked for Big Brother, Big Sister, which was really an awesome
Mm,
coaching opportunity because I coached the bigs and I coached the littles and helped them with their relationships. And you know what the biggest thing I learned out of that is that whole thing of doing these the teenagers. I had a huge teenage program. They seem to get it, but the older people, they're like, "Can I bring them presents?" And I said, "No. You're setting the bar. You are here because you're saying, I value you. I don't have to give you anything. I just see you and
so
I want to
good.
hang out with you. If anything, bring a book." And that was so hard for adults. They couldn't understand that just being present was so important.
Oh, that's so good.
That was such a
So good.
valuable lesson. Yeah. And
That was
and
said in the beginning of coaching too. Like, you know how many people don't have an hour just to talk about themselves,
yeah.
like and express themselves. I had a client just yesterday say, because sometimes as a coach, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure they get something really fabulous. Make sure they grow, make sure they change, right? You get that anxiousness. I don't get it as much as I do in the beginning. And then I'll be an hour, about 60 minutes into the 60-minute session. And I'm like, what did they get out of this? And then they thank me at the end. Thank you for just letting me like vent because it was piled up inside and I feel so much better.
And
Like adults don't get that.
no, and it's so incredible. And Jackie, that's the thing about coaching is then they thank you and we're like, all we did was listen. But that just shows the deficit, right? And
Yes,
then they'll
totally.
say, do you know, find this? Clients will say, oh, this is my coach and she gave me such good advice. I'm like, I don't give advice. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, I guess you didn't. But they're
I
giving
love that.
themselves advice, but you
Hmm.
facilitated it because you gave them room to talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
Yes.
continue your story. Radio, big
So I
brother, big
decided to get
sister.
back. Yeah, I decided to get back into radio because I wanted to get interviewed for being a coach. And then I realized I need to get back on the radio so I can have a show. Well, radio had shifted. So if you wanted a show, you had to pay to have a show. So I
Mhm.
did that for a while. I paid to have a coaching show, which was really fun, but I was paying to have a show. So I did get back into radio and I got to work on all these stations. So I'm in Seattle and I just go by my first name. I'm Laurie, and whatever the out cue, Cairo real time traffic, or the most music for your workday. And so there's things about radio that people just don't know. And so, for instance, how we communicate. And the thing about a good podcast is people feel like, oh, are you talking to me? And when
Yes.
when someone in their car does that, or when someone in their car will go, answer me yes or no. Now, I don't know it, but that's what I'm going for. That they feel like they're the only person in the world. Because what the biggest thing I think we're hearing in all these surveys is people want to be seen and heard.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if we can facilitate that by talking to many, like what's the advertising? When you talk to everyone, you talk to no one,
Yes. No one.
right?
I'm sorry. I was.
If you're
She's
a
prompting me.
yeah, if you're an esthetician and you
Hmm.
say anyone with skin, no, no, no. Everyone has skin. You can't talk to everybody. What kind of skin? What kind of esthetician? So we learn this in business. And it's the same with our voice. When we act like we're talking to everyone, we step up on stage above them. And in a way, we become better. We don't mean to. It's not what we're meaning to
Hmm.
do. But when we're sitting at the coffee shop having a cup of coffee and saying, so what do you think about that? Instead of what do you guys think about that? What do you think about that? Suddenly they're going, me? Oh, well, this
Oh, I
is what
love
I
that.
think. And so I take those things from radio. And now I'm still in radio. I'm on the number one talk station in Seattle, but I'm just part time because I really want to take my time to help women tell their stories. And our story, Jackie, you know this, and this is why I wanted you to podcast. Your story is 100 little stories. How
Yes.
many little stories have we shared today? And when we think
Mm.
about, sometimes I think, well, my story was, my mom died when I was a kid, or I came from alcoholism, or, that's maybe the big story, but it's not the only story. And when we hear a story, your story resonated with me, your got it girl resonated with me, then when we can resonate with someone and help them along the path, if that's all it's worth one person, right?
Mhm, absolutely. And that is why when I was at that workshop with you guys, I think one of you said like this is your free, the content. This is the way you can serve. And I was like, boom. Because there's yes, I understand in business we have to have funnels of like doing something that leads someone to do something to buy something with us. And I get that's how we make money. I understand that concept. And there's a concept of like I kept doing like throwing up random workshops and they were impactful, don't get me wrong, and there was something missing. This
Yeah.
is what was missing in my free content. Like I wanted to have bold, raw, real conversations and put them out for the world because if we want to talk human design now, like I am a 6'2". I am a pure storyteller. And I knew that's where my magic lied. And so why I was pushing back on it, I don't know so much, except that I know why. Let me just be
I was
honest.
going to say, I
I didn't
think
want
you
to do all
do.
the work. I didn't want to do all the work. But then I will say honestly, like from what I hear from podcasters like yourself that have been doing it for so long to now, it's way easier to do now. It's so much easier with all the technology that's out there and all the resources we have. I can from interview to getting it out there, I could within like an hour, I can get one episode out there. And so thanks to you for showing me that, and that stuff. Um, so now I see how, like you said, it's the power of one. Like how can I just impact at least one person with an episode, one person with what you're sharing with the world, one person with my story, your story, someone's story, to just go, that's she's talking to me, like you said. I
Well,
see like what I can like now I can see a little different. I can think a little different. I can move a little different.
yeah. And when people listen, they get to know, like, and trust you. And when they're ready, they go, wait, I feel like I know Jackie. I can work with her. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of the free is we're showing up every week. We're showing them, here we are. I'm still here. I'm still, because how many people come and go? We're saying, I'm
Mhm.
here. And when you're ready, I'm here. And don't we know it takes people a while sometimes to get ready?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Getting ready to get ready to get ready. So good. Okay, so let's see. We've touched on how you got back to where you are now and now how you're so tell us more about where can people A find you, be in your world. You had mentioned a couple things, but let's put all that here and we'll drop any links in the show notes for you guys. So don't worry about that. Um and work with you and all that stuff because this is just like 30 minutes of a taste of Laurie. You need much more of Laurie. So tell them about where they can find you and stay in touch with you.
So Coach Laurie, Laurie.com is the best place. And the thing is what I do is boutique and coaching because I love the coaching. So when you sign up with me and you go, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Oh, by the way, I have a tool. You've experienced my tool.
Yep.
By the
Oh
way,
gosh, it's what helped me in the
yeah,
beginning.
I have a tool. By the way, I'm going to edit your podcast so you sound amazing. And oh, by the way, I'm going to teach you all these micro tips that are going to make people lean in and listen. And I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader because guess what? I'm the tip of the iceberg. I have a network. I have people that have TV shows. I have people that have
Mm,
podcasts. There's so many people I can connect you with. And by the way, people I work with end up A in the top 10% of podcasters, or B, one of my people just reached out. She has 45,000 downloads and she's just been podcasting since January.
that's
So I
amazing.
have little systems and things in place to help you be successful because the worst thing for me as an entrepreneur was when I'd sign up for a program and they give me just enough to almost make it. And then
Mm,
I'd either have to pay them for more. No, you pay me, you work with me, and you've got me for life. And
mhm.
that's what I love. I mean, I like you said, we get to know the people, we learn from them, we get relationships, and I love that so much.
Yeah, and you're stuck with me just forever.
I'm so
Just
happy about that.
sorry about that. So what would you say is like a final just thing to help people walk away with just to change where they're going to go, what they're going to think and stuff like that based on what you do? Just
You,
what's that final word of wisdom?
Your story is your legacy. And if you have a bad story, say you come from horrendous abuse, you're not going to get on a podcast and tell everyone about your horrendous abuse. But you have learned as you go, you've learned, and you have all these little stories. And if those stories can make a difference in somebody else's life, but what if? What if you take your phone and you turn on your video or your audio and you tell one story about your childhood, one story about your child's childhood, a story that you remember about your mom or your dad, and you just leave it on your phone. When
Mhm.
you pass, because if I don't know about you, but we lost someone suddenly. I mean, it was a 9 month ordeal, but it was so unexpected. And when he was gone, we had his phone. It was my brother in law, and he had videotaped himself with his grandkids. Now we don't just have an answering machine. Remember how it was? We'd just go
Yes.
keep listening to the answering machine, never want to erase it. So
Mhm.
now you do that, you're leaving a legacy. And oh, by the way, you do it every day, you get in the hang of it. What happened, Jackie, when you start doing this every day? What
It
happened?
inspires me up. It gives me so much energy. Like I was excited to look that I'm going to be on someone's podcast after you and you having getting you recorded for my podcast. I was like, oh, this is a cool day. This is a good day, and so I And yes, did I fumble forward for the first couple weeks trying to figure out all of the technology or the little pieces behind the thing? That's life, right? We're gonna fumble through the awkwardness of the not knowing something, not knowing how to do something. That's everything in life. And then all of a sudden we know how to do it. And then all of a sudden it builds from there. And then it goes from there. And then it goes, oh, so I get so giddy. So yeah, huge. So excited.
Well, I really want to say this to you that I am very proud of you for pushing record because I know how hard it is. And when you said the thing, this is what so many people say. One, I'm not techie, or what am I going to talk about, which I have the tool for, or they say, who's going to listen? And what I say is, that's not your business. If you are
Yeah.
being prompted, not everyone's prompted to share a story and have a podcast, but if you are being prompted and you tell me, look out, because now I know that that's what you're being prompted to. You told me God wants you to do this, and then you tell me, and now I have to remind you every day. Wasn't it God that prompted you to do this? So it's not about who will listen. It's about, am I willing to speak my truth, even
Mm.
if no one listens?
Yes. I love that you said that. It's not our business to determine like who, and that's something that we talk a lot about in the coaching world of like, okay, we have these programs we run, like we want to launch this, we want to launch that. We get so attached to the result, the other side, the thing that well, what, like, if it doesn't, and they're that, like, how many people have listened? That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, I got excited because I have like 100 downloads in the first week, and I was like, ah. And this guy who was, I was watching something, he was in a program that I'm in or something, and he was talking about like, it's not about the downloads, it's not about all the things, it's about that one person who heard your message that needed it. And it was a good reminder because you get all like giddy with some analytics at first. You're like, look at that, and it's like, but it's so true. And that person who listened then makes a choice different, and then they move different in the world, and then they have a different life because of that one story that they heard because you said it and you put it out
Yes.
there.
Yes,
So
and you know what else? When you've gone to listen to a speaker and you listen to them 2 or 3 times, like sometimes we go to hear, and they start to tell a story and you've brought a friend, you don't turn to your friend and go, "Oh, I've heard this story." You go, "Oh, I love this story."
yeah.
Like, stories don't get old. People love to
Yeah.
hear them over and over because they motivate us, they encourage us, and
Mhm.
that is the power of storytelling, and it's the way to communicate. Telling we can tell and yell at people all we want. That's what's happening on the internet. But when
Mhm.
we are sharing stories, we're listening, we've got the back and forth, that's where magic happens. That's where people feel safe to go, "Oh, I got some of that."
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm done. I don't know about you and everyone listening, but I'm kind of done with the surface value conversations. Like the ones that are just like, how's the weather? How are you? Great. Thanks. Bye. Done. And it's like, no, no, no. Like, I
Yeah.
want to be in rooms with women like you all the time. So thank you. So thank you for being in my room and thank you for coming. So appreciate you. And I'm so excited for people to hear you more and
Oh,
more.
thank you, and ditto back. I mean, I was in a room with you, and that's why I reached out to you, and so this has been just so wonderful, and I'm just so excited to see all the wonderful people you get to interview, and I love that you give little pieces of you as you go. You're not just interviewing, you're sharing. It's that back and forth.
Yes.
That's very beautiful.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and please check out all of Laurie's stuff. And if you're thinking about doing what I just took the leap and did, she's your woman. Check her out; she's amazing. And check out her podcast that you can see, and if you can see in the picture, but we'll have a link to her.
Interrupted.
Interrupted, and I'm on that one. So,
Yes.
and don't forget to subscribe or follow or wherever you're watching this, whether it's on YouTube or on your favorite podcast channel. Don't forget to click that so we can get more people seeing these kind of messages that Laurie has shared and I've shared with you today. Thank you guys.